vibrations of your words, floating inside a handheld universe. My fingers hover above the glass like they could touch your distant breathing. Every notification sound rings out, then hangs in the air. Too long, turning simple tones into haunted bells. The room is quiet yet crowded with versions of you captured in photos, frozen in laughter, eyes reflecting lives we never lived. The track begins with a slow rising pattern. Suddenly the silence shapes itself into rhythm, a low steady thump. Mimicking the way my chest waits between replies, neon chords shimmer like static between radio stations. Your name appears, disappears again each time. The letters feel heavier, the pre-drop tightens around my ribs, all tension and no release. Then the bass arrives like a tide of relief, heavy, patient, unstoppable. It rolls beneath shimmering leaves that sketch your outline in the dark. Every chorus turns you into a hologram, stepping out from the wall, nearly real, almost warm, always just far enough to keep me reaching. The vocal trip through auto-tune, climbing my confusion into a choir. I dance alone in the hall. Bare feet chasing the remnants of your footsteps across the floorboards. The bridge strips everything down to a detuned piano and a single echo of your laugh, stretched until it breaks into tiny fragments of light. When the final drop hits, it feels like acceptance, still bittersweet, but wider. My lungs finally expanding to match the room. I do not delete you, I only turn down the brightness. Across the reflections, the chorus rises, and suddenly the whole car turns into a floating room. The outside world reduced to streaks of color and trembling shadows. Your last apology replays in my head, but the edges are smoother now. The anger stretched thin like vapor over the sea. Every repeated phrase in the melody arrives a little different, teaching my chest how to hold pain without collapsing. The sins bloom like underwater fireworks, slow and weightless, yet impossibly bright. My heartbeat locks into the rhythm and refuses to let go. Somewhere between kick and snare, I find the version of myself that did not walk away. I watch them laugh with you in some parallel night, where we turn toward instead of turning back. The bridge arrives, stripped and fragile, only paths and whispers. I hear you breathing right beside me, yet it feels like the echo of a promise made years ahead. When the drop returns, it is heavier, kinder, a tidal wave washing dust from the corners of our silence. By the time the track is fading into distant static, your fingers finally curl around mine, almost as if the lingering sound convinced us both to try again. Night settles over the park in slow, gentle layers. Street lamps blooming one by like steady thoughts the grass still holds. The day's warmth as we lie side by side, staring into a sky busy with satellites, airplanes, and a few stubborn stars. The small speaker near our feet starts with a hush of vinyl crackle. Then a distant pad emerges, soft and rounded at the edges. It moves in slow cycles, rising and falling. talk about everything that feels uncertain. Careers, distance, time, bodies that will not stay young, hearts that will not stay still. Every worry drifts upward, then dissolves as the same phrase comes back in a different color. The first drop opens quietly, no explosion, just a widening horizon. Stereo fields stretching until it feels bigger than the park, bigger than the city. The second drop brings brighter sense and sharper percussion, glassy stabs answering the rounded chords. You squeeze my hand and the gesture echoes through every repetition. I realize the future will not be a straight line, but a spiral, revisiting fleets and with more understanding each time around. When the song finally fades into faint residual hum, the pattern it taught my heartbeat remains a private cycle of leaving and returning that makes change feel strangely safe. Neon towers hum above our tired eyes as midnight traffic shivers in slow motion around us. Your footsteps ring across the avenue like a private rhythm. Only my chest can understand. Every passing car leaves a streak of color across the glass, and it feels like the past dragging its fingers through the present. We step inside the hidden room where the air is thick with bass and distant conversations. Your voice arrives in fragments through the crowd that lingers in the air. Long after your mouth has stopped moving, it curls around the synths and slides along the ceiling. All the small things you never said are suddenly loud inside the reverb. My doubts scatter across the floor like drop neon coins. The kick drum teaches my pulse to move forward. The snare draws silver line through every hesitation. When you laugh, it bounces between the walls until it sounds braver than before. I close my eyes. celebration of fate and choose which future to keep.
The door closes with a soft mechanical sigh, and suddenly the world shrinks to the space between your absence and my breathing. Dust floats quietly in the afternoon light, like tiny stove comments. The room still remembers where your suitcase rolled and where your laughter usually landed. I sit on the edge of the bed, counting the seconds after the silence, each one stretching longer than the last. Weight pressing down from nowhere, the track begins almost imperceptibly. A low distant rumble behind the walls, the kind of sub-bass you feel before you hear. Slowly, a fragile melody climbs from beneath the floorboard, single notes hanging in the air like unanswered questions. They repeat, circle, widen, gaining color and courage. My memories replay our last conversation, yet every loop highlights a different word. Regret bending its shape each time it returns. The kick arrives soft but certain, like footsteps in a hallway. You are no longer walking. Each hit pulls the room into a steady orbit. My thoughts flying out, then returning to the same center. Your name, the chorus blooms in slow motion. Pads opening like heavy curtains, revealing nothing except the vastness you left behind. Yet inside that emptiness, my chest starts to expand. Breath carving tiny constellations where your voice used to live. The bridge strips away rhythm until only further remains the sound of my heartbeat bouncing off bare walls. I realize the more it fades, the more space appears. When the final swell carries the melody upward, it does not feel like loss rising. It feels like gravity gently loosening its grip, giving my future permission. permission to move without erasing where you once stood.
has a thin silver line gliding across a deep blue canvas. It climbs, bends, then falls into a cascade of echoes, each repetition landing closer to something I have never said aloud. The bass arrives slowly, a broad warm current carrying the whole city on its back. Suddenly the concrete under our feet feels like the deck of a ship, drifting through an aerial ocean of smog and neon. The chorus swells into a wide open sky, hi-hats spraying starlight over our heads. We do not dance yet.
Like failures and more like parallel stories blessing us from afar. When the final rise lifts the sins into a bright trembling peak, our lungs expand with them, and for a brief shining moment the whole tangled skyline feels like it belongs to us alone. The empty rooftop, painting silver paths between satellite dishes and forgotten
leaving room for the spaces between us to vibrate. When your laugh joins the music, it feels like the real top line. Brighter than any synth, the pre-chorus wraps us in rising rays and notes, stacking like stairs toward a sky we will never quite reach. Then the drop opens suddenly, not aggressive but huge, a soft explosion of sound, shimmering leads arcing outward and falling back in long cascading tails. Every echo sketch rings around our bodies and visible orbits, locking us into the same slow rotation. We talk about nothing important, constellations, old cartoons, half remember childhood summers, yet the way your words linger after they fade makes each one feel monumental. The bridge strips away drums until only a fragile piano and your overlapping hums remain, recorded once and sampled back into the track. Your own voice circling around you when the final chorus blooms, carries a gentle ache, not of loss but of knowing moment. Like this cannot last. Still the lingering sound stretches them as far as possible, turning a short rooftop conversation into a memory big enough to sleep inside. The house is darker than you remember. Floorboards holding their breath beneath every careful step. Pictures still hang in crooked frames, catching stray headlights from the street and bending them into temporary halos. The air smells like dust and old perfume, thin and bittersweet. You set the speaker on the kitchen counter, press play and wait. A single drone rises from nothing, low and shapeless, like grief before it finds words. Then a soft kick appears under the surface, distant and muffled, steady as a heartbeat heard through a The paths stretch upward in slow ripples, colored by gentle distortion. Every swell carrying fragments of a voice. No longer hear the lead melody is simple, almost childlike, repeating the same climb and fall. But each time new harmonies bloom around it, subtle shifting the way memories add details you never noticed while someone was alive. You lean against the doorway
the chorus arrives without fanfare. Just a deepening of color. Hi-hats tick like clocks that have forgiven time. A distant choir fades in, not words, only breath and tone holding you while the pain moves. The bridge dissolves into near silence. Only a faint echo of the original drone. You imagine it traveling upward through the roof into the open sky, carrying everything you never said. When the final textures fade, you realize the room feels lighter. Not because absence hurts less, but because the lingering vibrations have stretched your heart wide enough to hold it. Sunrise leaks through the blinds in thin golden lines, sketching trembling ladders across your tired face. Coffee cools untouched on the table while the laptop screen glows with half-finished plans. Unread messages pile up in the corner like unopened doors. You tap a nervous rhythm against the mug, fingers drumming impatience and doubt. Then the first chord hits the room, warm and immediate, a small sun of sound. The bass follows with a steady, reassuring pulse, not pushing, just guiding. The hi-hats flutter like morning birds outside a closed window. The melody is bright but slightly out of focus, as if heard through some glare. It repeats, gathers strength, loops back with extra notes that feel like small suggestions. Maybe, every delayed tale leaves a soft trail behind the lead, overlapping until the air is filled with gentle forward motion. You push the laptop aside and let your thoughts drift toward impossible futures, new cities, different work faces you have not met yet. The chorus opens like curtains all at once, flooding the room with harmony. Suddenly your worries look smaller, tiny shapes on a wide, colorful map. The second drop hits harder, kick more defined, bass more confident. The synths cut through like clear intention. You start typing again, not out of obligation, but curiosity. The bridge narrows into a single plug line, bouncing between speakers. Each repeat a question, each echo a possible answer. By the time the last refrain arrives, it feels like your own heartbeat has learned the pattern.
optimism in 4-bar loops long after the music ends. You catch yourself humming the motif. Tiny rays of courage. Lives we never lived. The track begins with a slow rising pad, and suddenly the silence shapes itself in a rhythm, a low steady thumb, mimicking the way my chest waits between replies. Neon chords shimmer like static between radio stations. Your name appears, disappears, appears again. Each time the letters feel heavier, the pre-drop tightens around my ribs, all tension and no release. Then the bass arrives like a tide of relief, heavy, patient, unstoppable. It rolls beneath, shimmering leads that sketch your outline in the dark. Every chorus turns you into a hologram, stepping out from the wall, nearly real, almost warm, always just far enough to keep me reaching. The vocals drift through auto-tuned harmonies, multiplying my confusion into a choir. I dance alone in the hallway, bare feet chasing the remnants of your footsteps across the floorboard.
fade into the ceiling.